To continue our study in Ein Yacob, we finished already the section of Berachot in the Sefer Ein Yacob, and so we're going to continue now in the section of Shabbat on page 71. Those of you who are following with me, so we look at this first part on page 71, asking questions about unfamiliar tractates and preparing for prayer. The two segments we're going to cover today. And it starts on Shabbat, Talmud Shabbat 3b. On the preceding page of the Gemara, Rav asked Rebbe. Now, who was Rebbe? Rebbe was Yehuda Hanassi, who was the composer or the editor of the Mishnah, and also was a descendant of the line of David, of King David, Melech Hadavi. A question regarding carrying on Shabbat, and the Rebbe answered. Thereupon, Rabbi Chia said to Rav, son of distinguished ancestors, haven't I told you that when a rabbi is busy studying one tractate, you should not ask him a question about another, because he may not be well versed in it. For if Rebbe were not a great man, you would have embarrassed him. An incredible question, because you're not to embarrass even a teacher of the Torah, and though he's focusing on one topic, changing the topic, he may not be able to recollect everything. The Rebbe was not that way. He had an incredible ability to have literally like a photogenic memory, be able to remember many tractates and many studies, an incredible, prodigious person. So if the Rebbe were not a great man, you would have embarrassed him, for he might have given you an incorrect answer. This time, however, he did give you a correct answer. Now, preparing for prayer. Now, this is based on Shabbat 9b. The Mishnah said, when is the time for the Mincha? And the Mincha is the afternoon prayers. When is the time for Mincha comes, you should not sit down to get a haircut until you have prayed. Nor should you enter into a bathhouse or a tannery or sit down to eat or enter the courthouse for a lawsuit close to Mincha for fear that you forget to pray. But once you have started any activities, you don't have to interrupt to pray. The Gemara asks, what is considered beginning a haircut so that you don't have to interrupt to pray? Rabbi Avin said, when the barber places the barber's sheet on your knees, and when he begins, and when is the beginning of the bath, when you take off your coat, the beginning to undress, and when the beginning of tanning, when a person ties an apron around his shoulders, and what is considered the beginning of a meal. Rav said, when you wash your hands. Rabbi Hanina said, when you loosen your belt. But they do not agree. The one refers to the Jews of Babylonia, and there is exile, who wore their belts very tight and had to loosen their belts before eating. By the way, this is the custom of Sephardim. They wear not a sash, but rather a belt, and that belt serves to separate the lower extremities from the upper extremities. Unlike, for example, the Hasidic community and some Ashkenazi communities, where they will use a gartel. So there is a distinction there in the practice today being brought about from the time of the sages. Now, interesting enough, it says that before eating they would loosen their belt. The other refers to the Jews of Eretz Israel, who did not have the custom of loosening their belts before washing. They would take it with them, as it were. The Gemara now asks the question. Now we continue in Shabbat 10b. The Gemara discusses various ways in which the sages prepared for prayer. In other words, this is pre-preparation for tefillah, for prayer. Rava, son of Rabbi Huna, used to put on a special long sock when he prayed. He ordinarily went barefoot. He said, prepare to meet your God in prayer. This is based on the Navi Amos, chapter 4, verse 12. Rava would remove his cloak so as not to look a prominent person, humbly claps his hands and pray, saying, I conduct myself like a slave before his master. Rabbi Ashi said, I noticed that when there was suffering in the world, Rabbi Kahana would throw off his cloak, clap his hand, and pray, saying, I pray like a slave before his master. In time of peace, he would put on and wrap something around his head and pray, prepare to meet your God in prayer. The whole idea is that we're coming before Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in an aspect of humility as a person who has absolutely nothing, and he having everything as a king, as a master of the world, who in fact is the king of all the world, even our souls. So anything we ask him, we know we will have it. Because if he listens to our prayers, then what we have asked him, he has already received it, even before even asking. So that's an incredible concept. We're going to continue with the study of Ein Yacob and the importance of Shabbat in all of this, and in our next video we will be looking at judging legal cases. Shalom, shalom, and invite others to join us in this study of Ein Yacob. Shalom.